right, everybody, welcome back to the Grow Your Moving Company podcast. Today's guest is Matt Young. Matt is the owner, CEO, founder of iHaul, iMove, as well as movingletters.ai, based out in Colorado. And he's been in the business for 18 years and seeing some record growth this year. February and March, both up 65%. I can say that our March is crushing it and we're having the best March. I hope that you guys all are out too. But I think 2026 is off to a great start. We've been seeing a lot of good trends over the last really 6 months. We've had several record months. We've had several number 2 months. And the only other best month might have been during the peak 0% interest times of COVID. And so I think that's all a very good sign for everybody. But enough about that. Let's get into it with Matty. Matt, tell me a little bit in your own words, what you got going on with your different companies, iHaul, iMove, Matty Mailers. How'd you get into this business? You've been doing it for 18 years, so you're a veteran in the industry. What can you tell me? What's the story?
For sure, man. So thanks so much for having me on there, Wade. It's a pleasure to be here. So I actually started this moving company right at the height of the recession back in 2008 here in Colorado Springs. And, my brother had a partner, and he also had a moving company, and they kind of had that bad, nasty split. And I was able to kind of, jump in on one of his little thrifty nickel advertisements in the little paper. And I said, hey, like this could be a good opportunity for me. Before that, I had never really had a real job. I was, doing furniture deliveries from my dad's furniture store and things like that. And so, it was kind of scary, obviously going out on our own and things like that. But so I spent about 7 years on the truck, fast forward, that was a lot of time there, but 7 years on the truck, dude, just running things myself, doing all of it. And those were some massive headaches. I don't know why I did that, but and up until recently, defining relationships have really helped me scale the business, between the Louis Massaro stuff and, all of the other things, your events, all of that has really helped my business grow recently. So yeah, that's kind of like a quick short end of the version of it.
Yeah, no, I had a very similar story, basically 5 years on and off the truck. Probably the first 3 were the most heavily involved in the beginning. And then, Louis Massaro kind of turned the lights on, and it was like gave me finally like the answers I was looking for, the roadmap, getting in the room. Not only Louis, Louis gave me a ton of amazing information, but getting in the room with some awesome moving companies from all over the country that were in the same position as I was, or they had been in the same position as I was, and allowed me to seek out mentorship. What would you say was kind of like the turning point to getting off the truck from, that 7-year mark?
For sure. I was back then, while I was still on the truck, I was in a networking group, and this guy, he's pretty high level in our community. I think he owned a garage door business, and he looked at me and he said, Matt, your business is never going to grow until you jump off that truck, dude. And I said, yeah. And I was scared because I was scared of the quality. I was scared to take the risk, right? I was like, man, what is this moving company without me, right? And I think we get stuck in our head sometimes in there. But, and of course, also having a kiddo, right? Once you go jump and you have a kiddo, like that kind of changes the life, and that opens up your eyes a little bit more with time, with like, hey, I don't have time to just go be 12 hours a day on the truck anymore. And of course, also trying to run sales and things, it just wasn't scalable. So sometimes I say, even though I'm 18 years, I'm a veteran in the industry, I think the reality is that I'm still a pretty new business. I'm probably only 11 years in, considering that I wasted like 7 years just dogging it out on the truck, Good days, don't get me wrong, but obviously
life was simpler back on the truck. Sometimes I wish I could trade places with the movers, because there was just a lot less going on with how many different people are involved with delegating things to, and everything that goes into it. But it's the only way to grow. You're limited. You're getting paid for your time. You're getting paid for your labor, and you can only do so much with your time and your strength when you're out there doing it yourself. And that goes for any business. If you've read Rich Dad Poor Dad, they talk about the employees, the technician or the owner operator, that doctors, dentists, lawyers a lot of times are those people. Even though they make a lot of money for their time, they're still limited in the scalability of it. And then you've got your business owners and your investors. And it's really important to get into that business owner investor quadrant if you're trying to do big things. And nothing wrong if you want to stay small and you enjoy doing what you do and you're making enough to be happy and support your family. But I know probably you are the same as me. You got big dreams and you want to build an empire. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's exactly right. So since you've been off the trucks, what have you found have been kind of the catalysts to allowing you to enter this season of growth, aside from being more, delegating?
For sure. I think there's a lot of things, right? Like obviously being able to network once again with these movers and seeing everything that they're doing. That's just the mentorship, right? Number one, that's going to be the biggest thing in finding friends in this industry that you can. I know you always say this. Your network is what is it? Your network is your net worth, right? And so totally a little bit of that. But I would say within that last, recent time, some of the shifts that we've done is focus on relationship building within our community, more events, uh, finding ways to, reach out to realtors in a creative way to inspire more relationships. So that one has been very helpful for us. I did hire pretty much a full-time business development rep as well that goes out in our community, obviously goes to the apartment complexes, brings the donuts, brings the cookies, and we stay in front of that. We're very, in front of that. And we also use a little bit of snowball to help kind of cultivate some of those relationships. And so I would say that was some of the shift. Of course, I'm not sure what else we've done differently to help with the growth, but I think it could just be a little bit of that market shift, the seasonality of like where we're at right now and people just getting used to the interest rates and things like that, like, hey, might as well move now, right? It's not going to get much better. And so it's like really enlightening to see. So yeah, it's just like up to recently, that's been some of the big portions of my growth. And yeah, delegating, dude, getting some VAs, getting some people who can help you buy back your time and yeah, figuring out like trusting your people more, that's been a big thing. So
Yeah, no doubt. Tell me a little bit about your market. You said Colorado Springs, right? I know it was
yes, sir.
Colorado. Yeah,
Yeah.
Colorado Springs. Okay, yeah. How big is that market? What's the competition like over there?
For sure. So right now, I think we probably have 700,000 in surrounding. I'm not exactly sure. It's somewhere around that number as far as population goes. A very military centric, community. So we have NORAD up in the mountain. You may see those, from the movies and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
We also have, another Army base right down here, a couple Space Force bases, and the Air Force Academy. So a lot going on here as far as the military. As far as competition goes, I mean, our biggest competitor in our market is going to be like our 2 men in a truck. And I think they might have 25, 30 trucks. They're probably one of the biggest in the franchise network, I would imagine, or at least somewhere abouts from what I know. So they're definitely a force to be reckoned with. They're pretty monster. And then from there, I would say, we have, you're All My Sons guys. And then from there, like just a lot of our smaller niche guys about my size as well. And I feel like that's kind of where it trickles to there. And then, obviously you have your big nationwide companies that are around too. But as far as like the market goes, we're seeing, like I said, just a big upshift on, the type of clients we're getting to come to our circles. And, we're trying to kind of separate ourselves by trying to be a little bit more of the higher end mover, right? Like, and not just taking every job just to take it. So that's kind of been our kind of shift as well.
Yeah, figuring out your avatar, your ideal client is
Mm.
really important. When I first started, I thought it was college kids, and I didn't think I wanted to go service big moves like, a regular moving company would do. And quickly realized that was not a sustainable business model. We kept the
Yeah.
name, it takes us back to our humble beginnings. But yeah, I mean, figuring that out, I think a lot of movers don't even realize who their ideal client is. And I talk a lot in my book about just dialing that into like, who exactly is this person? Is it the 45-year-old mother of three that goes to Starbucks every morning? What does she read? What does she listen to? What does she watch on TV? Does she even watch TV? Where does she live? Do they own their house? Do they rent their house? Is she married? I mean, there's so many different dynamics. And as you start to pick apart those dynamics, you can start to target marketing and getting in front of those areas. And if you know that, this person likely plays pickleball, go sponsor a pickleball court somewhere or get involved in that community. And that's something that we've been doing over the course of the last several months because I'm a big pickleball guy, and a new country club for pickleball just opened up, and we sponsored a court and did a lot of cross promotional. We've got a two-year cross promotional deal with them. So super excited about that. And I feel like that really resonates with the clientele that we're looking to go after. But, may it be different for you. Maybe something with your market, getting involved in things that you're passionate about is, in my opinion, one of the best ways to network, because it's you don't even have to think about it. You just go do what you want to do, and you're around other people doing what they want to do, and you can naturally build those relationships. But you mentioned that you have somebody in your company that does a lot of business development now, and that's been a big turning point towards your growth. What do you have them doing?
Yeah. So right now they're, the big thing that that person does is we research new partners every week. And so whether that's restoration companies, it's realtors to go stop by, finding ways to introduce ourselves to some of those other niche ones, whether it's stagers, designers, things of that nature. And so we are trying to make that, shift a bit of like, hey, we've been so, reliant on residential moving, specifically here local moving, that how can we break through a little bit more commercially in some of our BNI. We also have a BNI chapter that we're involved in that has, honestly has been a game changer. It's one of the biggest ones I think in the state. And so that was fantastic as well. So yes, that person specifically is out there just out to build relationships, be everybody's friend, bring off cookies, and we find that there's some people that refer us. There's some people that can't because of corporate things of that nature. But we also reward those people too, like I said, using a little bit of that snowball platform to make sure that they're getting paid out as a part of our affiliate program. Because I think like movers, I've done an affiliate program. I don't know how many times we all have wanted to, and it just always fell apart. It always fell apart because I could never remember to pay them or send a gift card. It's not because I was trying to be a jerk, or it's not because I didn't intend to. It's just because obviously it happens. It's hard to keep track of, especially in the day-to-day. And so now having someone who can help us, automate that process has really, really helped us to make sure that they get rewarded. And so when they get $100 every referral or 75, it just encourages the stack of like, hey, at least I'm getting paid every time I do this. So that's been something too, is making sure we're incentivizing them with something. And I think our pitch is like, hey, what would you do with an extra 300 or 400 a month? And I mean, they're running into people all day that are moving, whether it's a, retirement community, things of that nature. So just getting out there in a creative way. And that person spends about 3 days a week doing this. We also do box drops to some homes that realtors request us to do as well. So it's kind of a mixture of like everything. And then the other 2 days is research and some phone sales as well for backup days. Of course, Mondays are our busiest days. I'm sure like you as well in the moving industry. And so she does help stay on the phones on Monday too, and kind of keeps her a little in the sales mindset too.
Yeah. Box drops are great with realtors, because a lot of times it's tough for a mover to find value or to give a realtor value. You come later in the process, and, realtors, at the end of the day, they usually all want referrals. And if you can't give them referrals because you're coming in after the fact and you have a bunch of realtors, you can't give them all referrals. If you know somebody who needs a realtor, what else can you do to get their attention? And a lot of realtors are real hesitant about taking a kickback. Snowball's awesome. We use that. And I mean, it just automates it. So even if they say they don't want the kickback or they don't want the little bonus, they don't turn it away either. They're not going to give it back to you. Yeah. And usually, there's a lot of gray areas. Different states might be different. I know in Florida, you cannot compensate. Only a broker can compensate the realtor as it relates to the transaction, but moving comes after the transaction. So a lot of new realtors don't quite understand that, and they're just hesitant. They're afraid to step on toes. And then a lot of the more established realtors are, they just want to protect their reputation and make sure that, that their clients are getting taken care of. So, that's where it really, that trust building thing comes into play. But finding ways like giving them boxes is a really good way to get your foot in the door with them. And if you guys have Brandon boxes, anybody who's listening to this, go drop off a stack at brokerage offices. And, even if they stick them in the back closet, ideally they're out displayed in front of, for them to come and grab, but ask them, do a presentation, tell them they can take them with them anytime to listing appointments, and they can leave behind some boxes with their clients when they have a listing appointment, because that helps them win that job when you're giving them some kind of value to then give to their prospective client. If they can win that client over by that law of reciprocity, great. They're going to love you. They'll probably send you some referrals, and then your branded box is sitting right there in that customer's home for when they're ready to call the movers, and you're going to be the first person that they think of. So that's something that we do a lot too. We'll give realtors typically 20 free boxes a piece if they want it individually, or we'll we'll leave a bunch behind at a brokerage when we do a presentation. But I think that's a pretty good strategy there. Hey movers, it's Wade Swikle, and you're listening to the Grow Your Moving Company podcast. If you've ever wasted money on marketing to the wrong homes, listen up. This is why I use USA Home Listings. They're the only platform in the moving industry built by movers that not only has new home listings and under contract listings updated daily, but now offers enhanced data that can eliminate vacant homes and give you phone numbers and emails for both homeowners and realtors, giving you multiple ways to connect and close more jobs. Their vacancy AI tool removes empty homes, so there are no more wasted mailing efforts, and their Tier 2 data takes it further, providing highly accurate contact details for both homeowners and realtors for email, phone, and social outreach. The result? Higher conversions, stronger ROI, and more book jobs with less spend. Check out usahomelistings.com because it's where real movers get real leads. Have you come up with any specific strategies that you found have been nuggets of gold?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we do cold email to a lot of realtors, and what I've found is that it takes about a fourth touch point to get most of them to consider or respond. If you hit them one time, you're like, hey, I'm a mover, I can help your clients, and you're kind of coming off a certain way, they're going to be turned off. I mean, you have to be selfless in your approach. And I think you had mentioned this very well, that you have to provide upfront value, right? I'll tell you this right now, realtors love free, you know what I mean? And so anything you can do to provide that, right? Whether it's, some type of gift card, whether it's, something for their client to get a value. We also do like branded seller prep guides, hey, give this to your seller. This will help them, in the process of getting their home ready to be sold, things of that nature. We also do landing pages for a lot of our realtors that, if they're requesting us to go maybe do a box drop, or maybe it's the first time, we'll build them a landing page on the site. We share that with them, and their clients can get an exclusive discount. The cool thing about that landing page is typically when you're searching that realtor's name, we're popping up organically, usually on the first page. And so my hope is that, if anyone is searching to hire that realtor and they're looking at their reviews and they type that into Google, which I've done, we're about usually 6th, 7th down on organic. And my hope is that it's, it says right in the title, hey, this realtor's, clients get 10% and $100 off their move, and click here. And, obviously they click there and they'll land on their landing page with some more specific information about that realtor. So we do that for them too. It's probably a valuable backlink for them. I'm not sure if it's completely valuable for us, but it has been nice to show it to them that like, hey, we're out there to help support them in some type of way. So yeah, I think you've nailed it, where it's like value, value, value. How do you provide it? And I think that's always something we're continuously trying to solve and be creative with, for sure.
Yeah. And if you've got pages that rank well for very specific neighborhoods or suburbs or parts of your community that a realtor covers, or that farms, maybe they farm a specific neighborhood. We've got several blog posts through our SEO that ranked for best schools in South Tampa, or Apollo Beach, Florida, or whatever. And don't quote me if you go search that, and maybe it doesn't show up now. Those, I haven't looked at the updated list, but I know we've got 300 keywords similar to that we rank number one or number in the top 3, 4. But what you can do is you can, when you're having these meetings with realtors, talk about them on that page, and even put one of their lead forms on that page, because a lot of people are researching an area that they're thinking about moving to. Maybe they're going to look at Tampa versus St. Pete, or maybe they're going to look at Colorado Springs versus Denver. And if you rank for Colorado Springs versus Denver, then find a realtor in Colorado Springs that maybe they also cover Denver, or whatever, one or the other, maybe both. and you can set up a backlink to them. You can set up a quote form that drips to them. And if they get any leads out of that, then now all of a sudden you are providing them some referrals. And you can do this with all the different pages that rank well for those certain specific areas that people might be researching. And if anything, it's a really good way to just get your foot in the door with them. And you can do, even if they don't get any leads, at least you're making that effort to try to send them some business. So a little pro tip there that has helped me get in front and have a lot of meetings with specific realtors that I've been trying to meet. But talk a little bit about how you make up those landing pages. I mean, it sounds like you're working with AI, you're doing some pretty cool stuff there. If you're willing to, I don't know if it's something that you're willing to
Let's
share.
Give all the secret. Let's give the good sauce here, man. We want to make this a good episode, right? So yeah, I mean, specifically, we'll talk about that. You know, up to recently, I had a website for like the last few years, and it was okay. It was buggy. It was WordPress. It was starting to get slow. And one of the things, you know, in my research is that page speed is very important, especially in the eyes of Google. And so if your website isn't loading mobily, friendly and all of that, you're not going to rank well either. And so I said, hey, I'm deep in the AI, I'm deep in the thick of it. And I said, like, I need a new website. How can I do this? And so I researched all of the, different moving companies across the country that websites are great and that I look up to. And I tried to find ways to build this. And so through AI, and I'll just be honest, I used Claude Code and I built this website on an Astro framework, which is a JavaScript framework. And it's a little technical, but it's a very fast framework. And so I built it on this and I redid our website. I probably spent 50 to 60 hours of my own time doing this because I was sick of going on Fiverr and hiring people. And I felt like I had the technical chops to finally do this. And since we've launched that website, our lead form requests per week have increased 4x from when it was on the prior website. So that has been huge for us. So just because my time is worth a lot, right? My time investment to do it, I think is still going to be, a 10x return probably over the next, year. And so I would say that was a big shift. Now for when you said, if you have your service pages and you're thinking of your communities, and maybe you're not ranking well in your area for like Colorado Springs movers right now. If you search that, I'm probably 20th. I'm probably on the second, maybe page, maybe even third. And I hate to say that, but if you search the nicest community in our area and you type in Broadmoor Movers, Colorado, or Broadmoor Moving Company, I'm pretty sure we're like 1 or 2 on the organic list. And so now we're ranking so much better for the most long tail keywords that we never did before. And so I'm like, hey, we'll dominate those all day. If we don't get the main one, I mean, yeah, that's where we all want to be, but that's okay. And I think that has really helped attribute. Plus the high-end nature of the website. I think it has a different look and feel than it ever has. Something else I did, Wade, that was really unique is, and I'm trying to track this, is I've done 3 different, when they land to our page, 3 different quote forms. And so I start off first by asking, what day are you moving? And that's lead form 1. Lead form 2 is, where are you moving? And then the C is first name, last name. And the reason why I'm doing this is I want an ABC test. What is the highest conversion when they get to your page? What puts the most guard down for them to fill out your lead form? And so this is a goal that I have too.
That's interesting. So are all 3 of those forms, are they all displayed at the same time or do you rotate them in and out?
Yeah, they automatically rotate per click. And so it kind of goes, random every time. And if they fill it out, I believe we have it in Smart Moving to put it in the notes form or something of that nature to say ABC. I'll be honest with you, I implemented it post tracking of it. And obviously it's only been about like a month and a half since we launched this new site. Hasn't been great. So I can't say for sure that I haven't dug into the numbers. I probably should have built a better tracker for it, but that was at least my intentions.
Gotcha. No, that's really interesting. I haven't really thought about that. I know that I've always been under the philosophy of less is more when it comes to quote forms, because every field that they have to enter some kind of information additional that isn't necessarily needed it's a friction point. And there's statistics that will show, even if it's a few percentage points, that fewer people will bounce before they hit submit, the more information for every question that you ask them. So we try to keep it as simple as possible. Having multiple locations, it's a little tricky because we do need to know where they're coming into, but we try to still keep it as simple as possible. We want to just get that basic contact information. We want to make it very easy to find. Above the fold on a phone, it'll just scroll up and down with you, basically every part of the page, so that nobody has to go looking for how to get in touch with you. You know, they can either call you right away by clicking the phone number, or they can see that form very clearly, because really the two biggest purposes of having a website are to build trust and get leads. Yeah. And you kind of need to build the trust in order to get the lead most of the time, but you also want to make it that path of least resistance with as little friction as possible. But I haven't really thought about that, like having different priority rankings. So let me know how that goes once you get some more data, because I am curious to see where that leads to. But what about AI? Like, how are you implementing AI into your business? You're a pretty tech savvy guy. We were talking shop on our podcast equipment here before we jumped on, and started to lead to some AI. I said, wait, no, we got to say that for the podcast.
For sure. So I'll get into it. So, I've been heavily into it, since the ChatGPT days. I know this sounds like I'm tooting my own horn, but I was one of the first people to introduce Louis Massaro to it when I was in his mastermind, and he was floored by it. Right. And so that was like right at the early days. And I knew the moment that I pressed submit on something and I saw it magically spit something out, I was like, this is going to change everything. And it clearly has. I mean, think about just that progress in those, few short years. Feels like an eternity in AI, world, right? With how much it is changing. But what I did is, up to recently, there was a tool that had come out, and I know probably some movers know about this, but it's really not for the faint of heart. And I'll be real with you, but it's called OpenClaw. And OpenClaw is basically a framework to take an API of an AI agent and install it on your computer. And now it has full browser use. It can browse the web for you. It can build apps for you. It can, all of that. And so this agent lives within my Signal chats, which is we use Signal Messenger at my moving company, and my like a Telegram chat, and it lives right back here on the computer. Its name is Avery. I also have some other sub agents under it, like Holly and a couple of others that have very specific roles in my company. But Avery does help us in a lot of ways to help optimize. So when we say build those landing pages, I can literally say, hey, Avery, we have a new realtor partner. Here's their headshot. Go research them, make it SEO friendly, build them a landing page and a moving prep kit like that they can, give to their sellers, and let me know when it's done. I mean, 3 to 5 minutes later, it's deployed on a website live. Here's the link. And we're able to send that to a realtor pretty quickly than we ever have. So we can literally launch landing pages, additional blogs, all through just my my messenger app on my phone.
Wow.
So this is the future, and it does live in some of my group chats too. So, in sales and things like that. So currently I have it tied into the Smart Moving API, which, all due respect to those guys, I love them, but I wish they would expand it a bit more. But right now, for instance, the other day I had a client text me and I was out walking my dog, and she says, hey, I want to book this day. And I'm just like, dude, loading Smart Moving up on my phone is kind of the worst. And I didn't want to forget, because I'm one of those guys who, like, if I don't do this right now, there's a good chance I won't ever do it. And so I literally messaged Avery. I said, Avery, book this client for me. Here's her information. Here's where she's moving from and to, and this is the date. And here's the hourly rate. Submit. Literally went into the Smart Moving API, did everything, put the notes in, everything that I needed, and pretty much had it ready to be scheduled. The only thing I had to do is log into Smart Moving and press the book button. That's the only thing it couldn't do. So now that is the future of, I think, CRMs, is having some type of agent be able to interact on the top layer of this. And yes, the user interface and all that stuff matters. We still need to look at these things, but having an agent be able to interact with those apps is going to be the future. The other cool thing I can do, Wade, is, with Avery, is I can message and say, hey, we have this client who says we forgot to tell them about drive time or something. Let's just give an example. Can say, hey, here's their phone number, or here's their opportunity number in Smart Moving. Pull the call recordings, transcribe it, and let me know if my sales agent was able to told them about drive time. And it can literally transcribe and message me back within 3 to 5 minutes if that happened. And so this is something that I don't even know if a VA could do as quickly or as efficiently as this.
That's amazing. I mean, I have kind of heard about these concepts, these agents. I don't know how to even get started with setting one up. Is there a lot of setup and training? Do you have to do any coding? You mentioned the API, which is, that's basically, for anybody who may not know, it's the key to like connect things to your to your CRM or whatever program it is that have, it's not just CRMs that have APIs. There's a lot of APIs, but I'm not an expert when it comes to that stuff. Is this something that anybody can do, or is this something that you just have a lot of knowledge and expertise in?
For sure. I think it's just, I'm probably on the top of like one of the more technical, moving company owners out there that does this. And in my community of like the Let's Go boys and things, I'm always flooring them with stuff I'm doing. And they're always like, dude, I don't know how you do it. But it's really, the secret is that, like, dude, I don't know a lick of code. I've gotten more familiar with it, but I don't know anything of this stuff. So really, it's not too hard, these days. If you hit a quick YouTube tutorial up and you go get a Mac Mini, most of these people are getting like Mac Minis to put it on, which is a $500-$600, computer. And the agent just lives on this computer. Its sole purpose is to do that. And just with one line and a terminal command, you can install this thing and it will walk you through the setup. It's pretty easy. Hey, do you have ChatGPT? Do you want to link that? Do you have an API key from Google Gemini? Do you want to link that? Cool. And you can use all kinds of different, the different, there goes my headphone. All of the different, AI providers out there you can utilize. So yeah, I think the setup isn't too bad. It's just that when it breaks, it's like, well, how do I fix this? Or, things like that I think become a little more daunting of like, okay, now I got to open up a terminal window. I got to type a command, things of that nature that might be a little daunting. And that's why I say it's not for the faint of heart. When I started with this, Wade, I started about a month and a half ago. I was kind of worried that like, man, I don't want to get too dependent on it, that it's doing so much in my business that now I won't be able to live without it. And the reality is I can't live without it now. So it's just the truth. Like there's no way, like the stuff that it does for me and how much better it makes it. It's like, it's literally taking ChatGPT and putting it on steroids. And that's exactly now what you're able to do with it. So, and I think the people who are going to do it, are really going to be separating themselves how fast they can implement different tools or how much easier it can make your life, whether it's just interacting with Smart Moving. The thing checks my email. It can send email responses. It can send, I hate sending Zoom links to people. So it can literally just do that, so wow. Just all kinds of stuff, dude.
Yeah. It's like a VA. I feel like it basically can do everything for the most part. A lot of VAs can do for tasks like that. That's amazing. I definitely want to play with that. I want to take a second and tell you all about Tighten Up Training. As a co-founder, we've spent months and months and months and a lot of money pooling together resources from some of the best moving companies in the world. And we're excited to bring this to an online platform available to any mover to use at an affordable price. Tighten Up Training has over 200 videos, including mover training, your highest turnover position, so that you can reduce claims, streamline operations, give your team the tools to perform at the highest level of service that generate repeat and referral business and allow you to charge higher prices, as well as sales training, marketing training, business development, leadership. We're adding more content as we speak. We've got legal training in there. We've even got door-to-door training for the moving industry, thanks to Lenny Gray at the Moving Titan Retreat. We've seen a massive explosion of moving companies jumping on to Tighten Up Training since the last retreat, and people are loving it. And when you sign up and mention this podcast, we're going to give you a free 6-week onboarding course in order to learn how to hold your team accountable and get the entire team on the platform so that you can have the best off-season and summer season that you've ever had. So go to tightenuptraining.com, schedule your free demo today, and look forward to tightening up. After our last Titan retreat, I wanted to figure out a way that we could put together a directory of all of the attendees with like an interactive map where you could go in there and like see what you got a job going to North Carolina. You just zoom in on the map, who's in North Carolina. And I basically just started talking to ChatGPT and went down this rabbit hole, and it literally built out Python code and showed me how to host it on like a short, mini URL and be able to text this link to people. I don't know how you got it, but I sent it to a bunch of people. It's like, check this out. We got this whole interactive map on like where everybody that was at the retreat that I had contact information for is based out of, and we've used that to hire companies that, we hired A&M movers up in near Delaware when we had to drop a shipment off because there was a blizzard or something and we had to get our driver back. Customer wasn't going to be ready for the delivery, but they needed to get their stuff, by a date. So I pulled up my map of our Titan Retreat attendees and I zoomed in on that area and picked out the closest company, and we reached out and we dropped off the shipment at their warehouse. They delivered it on the final mile. Everybody was happy. So it was a really helpful thing. But like I built this whole thing just by talking to ChatGPT and asking how to do that. And it spit out all this code. It gave me step-by-step directions. I, would ask it questions to clarify what certain terms and keywords like terminal was, the terminal commands and all that, so, it can, like, you can just talk to AI and ask it how to do this stuff. And it could probably walk you through everything you need to know about setting that up. I'm probably, next time I have some free time on my hands, I might go down that rabbit hole and figure out the open claw. Is that related to the Molt book that I saw where they created their own social network? Yeah. All these agents.
For sure. Yeah. So, it started as Claudebot and then it went to Moltbot, and then they created a social network, and it's a social network just for our agents. And so only our agents can go in there and post and stuff. I haven't connected that. I didn't want to, but it's funny to see they're like, yo, humans are screenshotting us and sharing it online. And like, I don't know. It's weird. It's really weird where it's at, but I heard something about Mark Zuckerberg wanted to buy Moltbook or something like that.
I think he maybe did. I think okay. they might have bought it. Yeah. I don't know who they bought it from. Did they buy it from the AIs, or did somebody have the rights to it? I don't know, but crazy times. And so are you training it to learn how to do smart moving tasks like that, or, whatever VoIP system is pulling the transcripts, or are you connecting it to those APIs and it already knows? What's that process?
Yeah, for sure. So I do, I plug in those APIs from the different things, whether it's Go High Level, whether it's Vercel, which is where I host my website, GitHub, all of those things. And I start just connecting all of those different APIs. And then I give it the API documents and I say, hey, research this, start to test it, play around with it, and how could we work with this? Like, how could this help our workflow? One of the biggest things with AI that people don't do is reverse prompting. It's like, hey, based upon what you know about me, what could we do that could get us closer to our goals today? Reverse prompt. And so I think like those are the things that are like, oh, wow, well, based upon what I know about you, we could be working on this, this, and this, and this, or you need to get this done. So that's been a big one for sure. So once you plug in the APIs, I think, and give it API docs, it starts to kind of figure it out. I also have it connected to our, truck GPS systems API too. So I can say, hey, where's green? We have, we do colors for our trucks, but I say, where's green truck? And it'll literally say, oh, here you go. And it will give me the coordinates where I can click on a Google map and see exactly where it is without opening the app. Or I can see its history through the day and it can show that for me. Or, hey, what time did the trucks get started today? See if the guys were late or not on dispatch. So that's some of the stuff you could do too. So once, APIs are the future, and MCP, which is model context protocol, which is the way AIs are deciphering these APIs in a kind of a simpler fashion. So I did go and build my own smart moving MCP, which is it's like a little server that kind of hosts all of the endpoints. And so it knows exactly how to do the different things. So if I need it to do something, it doesn't have to make 6 different API calls. It has like one, and it kind of does it all at one time. So it's kind of nice, man. It's a fun, efficient system. And, I'm sure I'm not even using it to all of its possibilities, but man, talk about
it seems like there's unlimited possibilities with
there really is, dude.
Yeah. I recently saw that the newest version of ChatGPT, I follow some AI accounts and I was reading up on some of these updates that have recently rolled out, like what's new in AI. And I know you're in the mailing business. Full disclosure, we do work with USA Home Listings, but it's okay to have that mentality of abundance with, multiple people in different industries all coming together. And I saw that ChatGPT was now scraping, like it showed that it could scrape San Francisco's home listings and pull up a bunch of, all the houses, whatever parameters, talk about the real estate market and very detailed demographics. I don't think it replaces services like yours and USA with Eric and those guys. But it's an interesting thing because I use ChatGPT to do market research data for our different markets and see like, what's the average home price in San Antonio? What's the average home price in Tampa? What are the demographics? We talked a little bit about avatars of your customers. And I like to talk to it about doing that kind of research and development to really hone in on like, who is my customer and what are they doing and where are they living and how are they spending their money and what are they looking for with moving companies? And I'm curious if you've used AI to help research market data or to help come up with different strategies and campaigns in your own mailers or your other marketing that you might be doing.
Yeah, for sure. One of the things that I'm eager to build out for my business development rep is to have an agent for her to be able to interact with and kind of give her her own AI employee who will more or less, the goal is that every week it's researching different partners. And we're going to have another API that we'll plug into that can do some data enrichment as far as like if we get a first name, last name off of LinkedIn, we can possibly get an email or a phone number so we can start trying to get to the big decision makers at some of these companies. And so that is kind of our hope, is to use it to, hey, once a week, go build out a plan for them, spend, however many hours doing this, and let's start laying it out based upon kind of 4 quadrants of our city, Northeast, Southwest, all of that stuff. And now that way, when she goes out, it's not just, hey, I'm going to make it a realtor day. It's like, no, we're going out and I'm tapping everybody I can in that area. And so, and also a big part of this outreach is the follow-up. I think that's the big thing where a lot of people fall through with business dev is they're not doing efficient follow-up. If you're just like, hey, I met you once and we went for coffee, but see ya, I'll never talk to you again. You're broke it. It's already ruined. And so deals are made in the follow-up and the continuous cultivation of that relationship building. And so that's our goal, is that if we can get that kind of data, besides just dropping by, cookies, we were able to still email them post cookie and say, hey, how are the cookies?
Yeah.
So I don't know,
and it'll automatically do some of those follow-ups and email them or text. Can you text them too? Or is it mainly like stuck on?
So yeah, I mean, you could connect it to the MailChimp. I don't have it. I think I may have it connected, but I don't know if I've done anything with it on the MailChimp side of things. But we have it connected to the email. And so my goal is to maybe connect her email. And so she can say, hey, send this email, or hey, I have 10 partners, draft a personalized response to all of them. Here's some key details about my meetings with them today. And it will do that. And then it will just send it. And it's beautiful because how much time she saves versus even doing the old school copy paste from ChatGPT, right? Now it's actually just able to kind of go in and just do that. So for sure, a lot of potential opportunities that I think a lot of people are sleeping on the AI thing, but it's really just asking it like, hey, how can I do this? Hey, how can I install OpenClaw? What would you suggest I do? And then there you go. And it's going to literally give you, search the web on how people are doing this right now. Even if I'm not good at AI, and what to expect. Like, is this for me? Is it not for me?
Well, Stephen Reed told me at a retreat a couple of years ago when ChatGPT was just, fresh off the press. It was like a brand new thing. Maybe it had been around for a few months, but he was like all in, like right away as well. Yeah. And I was like, man, how did you learn this thing? How do you know how to use it? He goes, I just asked it. I asked ChatGPT, how do I use ChatGPT? And it told him how to use it. And I think that, we can do that for a lot of this stuff. And, probably way too technical to go into all the details on it for a podcast, but just take that with you and do what you will. I mean, the information that we have access to today, I mean, it's really a magician in your pocket at this point. And I mean, I use ChatGPT pretty much every day, but I've got all the other ones. I'm looking on my bookmark tabs. I've got Grok, I've got Claude, I've got Perplexity. Gemini I've found is really good for making like images. Just today I made a joke image of my friend and I switched his face onto mine where I was doing something, and I just sent a picture of me and I sent a picture of him and I said switch faces, and it looks flawless. So it's really, really amazing, what you can do. And I'm finding that like each of these different AIs, I go to them for slightly different things. Like Claude is really good at cleaning up spreadsheets or building out really like complicated spreadsheets with a lot of formulas and a lot of really like making them look very pretty, and so that I can use them for a presentation or if I'm showing somebody, or just to have like a template on how to run certain KPIs and scorecards and stats on different things. And ChatGPT, when I tried to ask that, it could do some things, but I found that Claude like nailed it like first
Yeah.
try. And I was like, holy cow, like this is my new spreadsheet wizard. Anytime I want to make a pretty spreadsheet with complicated formulas to do what I want to do, like it connect multiple spreadsheets and aggregate it into one. I mean, it was pretty impressive stuff. I'm still figuring out like Perplexity and what that might be a good use case for. I know Grok is scraping the whole X feed of information. So it's really good for like current event related things. Most of you have heard me talk about Moversville and the power of their email marketing service that has helped us increase leads by over 112% over the last year. But have you heard of Moversville Connect? Moversville Connect is an incredible resource for all things moving. They feature an array of vendors and services and lists like insurance providers, softwares, equipment suppliers, marketing sources, and much, much more. The best part? This resource is free. Go check out Moversville Connect today by going to moversville.com and clicking Connect. That's moversville.com and click Connect and discover the world of Moversville beyond email. But I'm curious, like, do you use multiple different LLMs or AI platforms and for different use cases? And like, what are some of those?
Yeah, for sure. Let's get into it. So Claude is my main. Claude Opus is for the more complicated, big picture stuff. And it just has a great personality for some reason. And then I'll use Sonnet when I'm running out of usage. I'll be honest with you. Usage can be a thing in this game. And then for just quick questions, I'll still fire up the ChatGPT. Some of the other ones I don't touch as much as I used to, but there are those weird use cases. Like I still like Gemini when you can turn your camera around and you're like, hey, I'm doing this thing right now. And you can get in the voice mode. And like, especially if I'm like working on something that I'm stuck on, or like maybe it's, on a car, I'm like, hey, look at this thing. Where do you think I should do? Or, whatever, if a truck broke down or something. But that has been good too. The other thing that I did is, I went and bought, a pretty good computer here, which is called a Mac Studio. And I literally have a local LLM hosted on it, it's a model called Quinn 3.5. It's a Chinese open weight model. And China has been very, like good about pushing their models and making them open sourced and things like that. And this is really where I think the future is our own private LLMs that aren't in the cloud and things like that we can interact with, or that will, do stuff with us that we don't even have to pay inference for. I don't have to pay any API for it. So I host it over there. And so a lot of people are doing this kind of local AI game. And I'll be honest with you, it's just also kind of another hobby. It's kind of fun. So yeah, man, that's kind of my LLM. But, Opus, definitely Claude Opus for number one for choice for sure.
Yeah. I've been playing more and more with that. It's done some stuff that used to take hours, even just like changing like the colors and like merging cells and really simple things that just take a long time to do on your own. It'll spit it out in 15 seconds. It's really, really cool. And I can tell you're passionate about it. And I'm just fascinated by the whole thing. One of the things I was just talking with Austin about, we had a podcast recording right before this one, is creating like a custom GPT or a custom, bot, I guess, LLM, whatever you want to call it, that knows everything about your company, has all of your SOPs, which I have uploaded all of our SOPs into ChatGPT in a custom, project that I can reference for various things. But basically building this thing out to make it more customer facing and putting it as like a bot on your website that can actually book moves over text, whether, they're chatting with the website person, they think that, because it's so conversational now that it feels like you're talking to a real person when you're asking it these questions. And I'm thinking like, why can't we train it on everything there is to know about our company so that it knows more than I do as far as like every detail of an SOP that I would otherwise have to go back and reference. And then maybe even it, is cleaning up SOPs and like making them even more optimized, more simple, better, whatever. But can we train it as a salesperson, give it our script, our rebuttals, all of the FAQs that our company has, and then planting that onto our site so that customers can literally, and then APIing it to like a smart moving, and then, making it so that they can literally chat with this thing and book their move, pay their deposit, do everything that a human would otherwise be doing. Do you think something like that currently is possible? And what do you think the LLM that would be best capable of handling something like that is?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a good question. Like, obviously you want it to be conversational. You want it to be trained to interact like one of your agents. And it needs to have some of your SOPs. You also need to make sure that, like, while you're doing this, I think not only does that world exist where it has like the references for your sales, what it does and its sole purpose, you also have another version of this that's more for your operations side of things. So I think, where an operator at your business, or maybe it's a sales rep, has a question about a process, it can literally go on there and be like, do we move hot tubs? Like, I got this question the other day from our business development rep. She's like, do we move hot tubs? Like, she's been here a while. I hope she had known that actually we don't really dig in on that, but she could have asked that maybe before even coming to us. So, but I do see a side of it where eventually, yes, right now I've already explored the option of tying in an LLM, kind of like what I have over here with OpenClaw, to like a Twilio or to a text interface where they can text it and it's always going to interact right here through this text message. And yeah, it could be tied into smart moving and helping you book jobs. And I think that exists right now. I think that would be a better use of AI now than maybe even the voice agents. All due respect, I'm personally not a big fan of the AI voice stuff that's going on. And I was going to
bring that up.
Doesn't mean you should.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up next, but no, continue your thought. We can chat on that here in a second.
Yeah, for sure. But like, I think that is the world. And I think like my goal, like last year I had this prediction and it didn't really come true, that more people will book online. And I think it's the craziest thing in the world that there's these CRMs out here. And they're all great. There's a lot of them. They're all great. They do a lot, but none of them have figured out how to build a tool to help their customers book moves online. And that to me is just wild, because I do believe there's a world here where, we're in the Uber Lyft generation where we can have instant gratification to order something right away. That as those younger generations, Gen Zers, come up into the market who can start to afford movers, they're going to want to book moves online. That's all they know. And so I think there has to be a way to make those smaller 1, 2 bedroom, maybe even 3 bedroom apartments bookable online. I'm not saying you should be able to book house moves online yet. I'm not a big fan of that because, of course, as you know, talking to them, I want to qualify them. You know what I mean? I want to know how much stuff they have in their home, but typically a 2 bedroom apartment, let's be honest, I think we all have those pretty well figured out. So I do think there's a world where we can start with some smaller moves. And as the technology gets better and as we adapt to trust it more, we can start to expand into the bigger moves. So
yeah, I'm right there with you. And I was saying to Austin, our ideal customer, age 40 to 65, sometimes older than that, they still want to talk to a person. They're not quite as tech savvy. They're not, they don't trust it as much. They want to have a face-to-face conversation, whether it's a virtual over live switch or an on-site estimate, somebody going out there, or even just a phone call where they're talking to a real person. But, millennials and later, Gen, whatever generations we're up to, Gen Z, Gen X, Gen A, whatever it is now, like as those start to come of age, they've been born with a screen in their hand and texting. I mean, they're probably texting before they're talking in a lot of cases, or navigating an iPad or something. And, I think that will be how people want to do business. I mean, even today, I know myself and people that are a lot older than me prefer to text rather than call, because when you can't, it's hard to talk to somebody when you're in a noisy place, or if you're with friends, you can't, it's rude to just take a call and start talking. But how many times are you out in public and you see people both texting other people and having 4 different conversations when they're sitting across from each other at dinner? I mean, it's just a lot more succinct. There's pros and cons to it. Obviously, you can't convey certain tonalities and personalities as well. But I do think that a lot of the younger generation, as they start to become our ideal customers, are going to want to book over text. They're going to want to book with, chat, and the chat is so much more conversational than the voice agents right now. And, I think a lot of people, a year and a half ago were really, really bullish on the voice agents, and we adopted them. We still use one, but we use the Super Move one actually, and it connects with smart moving. But I just think that people know it's a voice agent still. It's just, you hear it almost sometimes. I feel like people are like, operator, let me talk to. I mean, you listen to some of those calls and they're kind of clunky. They lag, they cut people off. They don't give them what they want. I think you could probably be a lot smoother with like a messaging AI agent, at least where things are right now. And I do think that eventually the voice agents will catch up and they will probably get a lot better. And you'll probably be able to do virtuals with an AI that looks exactly like a regular human that could, I think it's going to continue to improve at light speed, but it's not quite there. I don't think. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think it's quite there. And I'll give you some good prime examples of this, well, first of all, I haven't adapted it into my business. Currently Austin and I use a call center that only is US based. And I don't even use VAs there for a lot of stuff. And I love it's a few $100s more a month that I'll spend, and maybe even more. But the reality is they're always getting, an American human on the phone. And even though they might not know everything and it's a call center still, there's some of that disconnect. It's still so much better than give me an agent or some of the cringy stuff that I'm seeing AI do. And so, and I'll give you another example of where, just because, like I said, you can doesn't mean you should, is that with my OpenClaw and Avery, I programmed using one of the more popular APIs for voice agents. I programmed a hiring agent. And so the hiring agent is to field the calls. And so it starts with, hey, my name's Melissa with the iHaul, iMove, hiring team. My purpose is I'm an agent, but this will take about 10 minutes. It's to field some questions to you to see if you'd be a good fit on progressing your career with our company. And so we deployed this. And what it does is after it's done, it sends to another LLM to analyze their sentiment, their questions, and give us a scale from 1 to 10 if they recommend we should contact this person or not. Now, it's been great. I will say it's a really cool tool, but a lot of people hang up. And I think of how movers think and how they might not be the most tech savvy. And I actually think after we implemented this, I said, I think we might have to go back to, Kathleen's her name. She's our operations VA. I said, Kathleen, I think you're going to have to just go back to the phones. I was I don't think we can have, her field the AI field these calls anymore, because I think we're losing a part of it, right? A part of the kind of human touch to this. And I think we're probably losing some movers because of it. They're getting turned off. I mean, we do a lot of our group interviews over, Google Meet, and not a lot of people show up. And I'm I think we got to go back to a lot more in person, because we're trying to field them in a quick way and have our VA help with that. But I'm I think we're going to have to go back to the old school way, because I think AI might be kind of turning some people off here. It might be hurting us more than it's helping us here.
Yeah, I think we've seen a lot of things kind of similarly come full circle. We had originally back in the day, you would just talk to your neighbors and see who they used, or your friends, who everybody used and the yellow pages came about, and whoever had the biggest, boldest page in the yellow pages would get the calls. And then Google shut down the yellow pages basically, and everybody wanted the best website with SEO and all the black hat stuff, and they just need all the keywords listed in a million directories and all this stuff. And whoever had the website won the game. And then social media came around, and then anybody who had the social media presence, if your company had a Facebook, then you were cutting edge, and people would find you on there, and then all of a sudden everybody has a Facebook, and and now it's AI, which is kind of the next big thing. Everybody wants to hop on that AI bandwagon, but I honestly feel like certain elements are going to come full circle, or they already have come full circle, where it's kind of back to that grassroots at the end of the day. People want to go back to doing business with people. They don't want to just pick a company because they have the biggest yellow page. They don't want to just pick a company that has a website. You're expected to have a website. You're expected to have social media. Now, it's getting to a place where you're expected to have AI. And it just seems like it's all kind of come back around to where it's we still can't replace, and I don't think we necessarily ever will replace, the fact that people want to do business with people. And it's important to keep that in mind, because if you're the person who's going to be the face of your company, and you're still going to give people that one-on-one human being to human being treatment, all of a sudden that stuff that was 100 years ago, what worked, is now what is helping you stand out in this world of all the tech. And that's not any way to say that the tech isn't going to ultimately help us all, because I think it will. But I think we still have to be conscious and strategic about where we implement it and how we implement it in order for it to be as effective as possible. We can't just let it run and let it run our business for us. We have to be able to to know like this is where it makes sense to run it. And I see AI in training becoming a really, really big thing. I mean, obviously we have a training company with Tighten Up Training. And I look at my moving company as a training company that happens to do moves, because like we have to constantly be training and enforcing SOPs, and we've got new people coming in, and we want to get them up to speed as quickly as possible. And I think with voice agents, there's a really good use case if somebody can figure out how to use the voice agents on the flip side to where we can now role play with them, as opposed to having customers call and talk to a voice agent. The voice agent is the customer, and we can now practice role playing, and it can read the transcripts, provide the insights and the feedback in real time as people are talking to them. And I know some people that are working on building out those training voice agent things, but I think that there's going to be things that we can do with the movers as well, where AI is giving them real-time feedback. Companies like LiveSwitch, they have people that are adopting LiveSwitch for their crews, not just their salespeople, so they can go through the home and do the pre-move inventory with LiveSwitch, and it'll use AI to tally up all the furniture. We've had Yumbo, we've had Come Home AI, we've had some other tools that have allowed you to take pictures, or the customer to take pictures or videos and get that inventory. And all those things, along with LiveSwitch on the video side, are great for that. But I think that there may be an even more valuable piece of using those things to solve, to prevent missing things or problems, or documenting things. And then on the training side as well, from an internal standpoint, that I think is a lot of times overlooked, because we're trying to find that magic bullet from the marketing and the sales side. But the real gold might be the flip side, the reverse of that internally.
Yeah.
But those are just my philosophical thoughts on it.
For sure. I think you've nailed it there, Wade, for sure. And, I try to tell people too, like, as we progress, we always want to like get bigger and better. And I see people who even have like their Ring Central, phone system, and they have like for press 1, press 2, press 3. I'm like, guys, get rid of that. That's actually killing calls. A lot of people will bounce out just because of that, or the AI agents go straight into like, go back to a ringer. Just go back to a ringer, guys. Like you don't need to have the whole music that's like, hey, welcome to iHaul, iMove. I used to do it. And people would bounce.
Us too.
Yeah. And I went back to a ringer.
Exactly. We did the same thing. We did create a custom jingle that, instead of it just being a ring phone, it does start to play, and it actually upsells for us. So like, kiss taping boxes goodbye. Ask your moving consultant about packing services. Hello, this is Jay with Two College Brothers. How's it going? Or if they have to be put on hold or transferred or something like that. But we have it ring directly to our team now, after, because Lewis used to talk about having that IVR set up to where it directs to the departments, and you don't want to bog your salesperson down with a claim or an operations question or a solicitor or whatever. But fact of the matter is, that's going to create the best customer experience. And after doing it that way for a while, we went back to just having it ring directly to our customer facing sales team, because I'd rather capture those leads and have them take the occasional non-sales related call and transfer them, or, tell them we're not interested, than miss those leads altogether just because we're trying to route that call somewhere else. And I think,
for sure.
I think you're onto something for sure with that. Well, Matt, I know that we had talked about, maybe keeping it to 45 minutes, closer to an hour, and we've already got over an hour. I've got to get on the road here, going to see my sister this weekend down in Sanibel Island. Cool. She's staying on the beach, so pretty excited about that. But I do have to wrap it up, unfortunately. Are you coming out in June to Scottsdale for our mastermind retreat?
Definitely going in June. Austin told me and Nical, and they called me and they was like, dude, you got to go. We're going to have a great time. And I just had come back from another retreat where it was in person at a mansion. And I can tell you that those as all due respect, I love your events. Don't get me wrong, but I like those a little bit better. I like just the in-person hangout sessions. You know what I mean? Those mean more to me. So I'm definitely excited to come out and be a part of this opportunity. So thank you, Wade.
Absolutely. That's how we got started with the Titan Retreats, is we were doing this. This was like our original plan, was to bring together 15, 20 movers from all walks of the country, doing all kinds of different things. And we got so much value out of those. I mean, Chad, he 4X'd his business. I brought him to one that was actually in Scottsdale that Jesse and Chris Ship organized from Mentors Moving. And they had a bunch of us out there, and Chad was like nervous to go because he's like, all these big dogs are going to be there. I'm just like, I think he was doing like 800,000 at the time. It was probably 2021. And he came back from that so fired up with so many nuggets, ready to take his business to the next level, and has literally 4X'd his business since then. And believed in it so much that that's why we started doing that, hosting our own. And then that ultimately it got too big to contain to one Airbnb mansion, which is how we started doing the conferences, which are a ton of fun too. And, awesome experience. But we decided like, let's get back to our roots and do like a more intimate mastermind one again, because that so much magic happens. We talk about this kind of stuff. We show each other these kinds of things that we've been doing, just share these ideas behind closed doors that, maybe you don't want to talk about on a podcast or on a public stage, but you don't mind talking about with 10 other movers in confidence. And sharing some real powerful stuff. And then it's just motivating. I get so fired up, for weeks after I come back to implement like all these nuggets. Cause whether you're doing, $20 million, $5 million, $1 million, or you're just starting off, you got something to learn from everybody every step in the way. Because sometimes, getting back to the fundamentals, the grassroots stuff that you forgot about, cause you grew a lot. You get really fresh perspectives on how these people that don't have the resources to be inefficient are finding ways to be a lot more efficient. And then of course you got the companies that are bigger than you that, where you were at, and they can give you some insights on what allowed them to kind of break through the ceiling and hit that growth. So there's a lot of good stuff, but I'm not going to sell it too much. If you guys want to learn more information about it, just come hit us up on Instagram or send me a message, whatever you want to do. But Matt, if people want to get in touch with you for any of the services that you offer for the moving industry or just the talk shop or talk about AI, what's the best way to do that?
I think Instagram, Maddie Mellers is a great one. And, they can obviously hit up our business, iHaul, iMove, that's probably a great way. But anybody who hits me up on Facebook Messenger, any of those type of options, I'm always eager to kind of like help other people. And like you said, dude, there's always something to learn from everybody, man. I'm always learning stuff, even from movers that are smaller than me. And so I always can appreciate that. So thank you so much, Wade, for having me on today, man. It's been a great time.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for coming on the Grow Your Moving Company podcast. It was good to have a long form conversation. I think we've only kind of talked in passing before, so this was really good to get to know you a little bit better, Matt, and looking forward to seeing you in June. So until next time, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Tighten up. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Grow Your Moving Company podcast. If you would like to learn more about any of the sponsors listed on this show, want to apply for the next Moving Titan retreat, or interested in owning or working for Two College Brothers franchise, drop me a line at wade@twocollegebrothers.com. Moving out. Have a great day.